Two countries, no shared border, no direct history of war for thousands of years. And yet, they have been trying to destroy each other for decades. Most people think this is a religious war. A few think it's about Israel's survival. But the real answer? It's none of those things, and all of them at the same time. Today, we go deeper than the headlines. Here's the fact that will shock you. Iran and Israel were once allies. Before 1979, the Shah of Iran and Israel had full diplomatic relations. They shared intelligence. They cooperated on oil. Israel even helped train Iran's secret police, Savak. Why? Because both feared the Arab states around them. This is called the Periphery Doctrine, Israel's strategy of building alliances with non-Arab neighbors, Iran, Turkey, Ethiopia. Classic enemy of my enemy logic. Then came 1979. The Islamic Revolution didn't just change Iran's government, it completely flipped its identity. Overnight, the Shah's secular pro-Western Iran became Khomeini's Islamic Republic. And Khomeini had one very clear message. Israel is an illegitimate entity that must be wiped from the map. Not because of any war, not because of any attack, but because opposing Israel became the ideological foundation of the new Iranian state, from friends to existential enemies, in less than a year. So what is this war really about? Let's break it into 3 layers. Layer 1, nuclear power. Iran has been enriching uranium for decades. They say it's for electricity. Israel says, "We don't believe you." By 2023, Iran had enriched enough uranium to build 9 nuclear warheads. Not a bomb yet, but the capability to build one quickly. For Israel, this is a red line. A nuclear Iran doesn't just threaten Israel's military dominance, it threatens its monopoly on nuclear weapons in the region. Israel has never officially confirmed its own nuclear arsenal, but most analysts believe it has between 80 and 400 warheads. A nuclear Iran would end Israel's absolute deterrence advantage forever. This is the real core of the conflict. Layer 2. Regional dominance. Iran doesn't fight Israel directly. It fights through what it calls the axis of resistance, a network of armed groups. Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, Houthis in Yemen, militias in Iraq and Syria. This strategy is brilliant and terrifying. Iran can bleed Israel without ever officially going to war. It can deny responsibility. It can keep the pressure on indefinitely. Israel's response? Dismantle the network, kill the commanders, destroy the supply lines. That's exactly what happened in 2024. Hamas leadership killed, Hezbollah leadership wiped out, Assad fell in Syria. Iran's entire regional architecture collapsed in 12 months. With its proxies gone, Iran was exposed, and that's when the real war began. Layer 3. Domestic politics. On both sides. Here's the angle no one talks about. Netanyahu has faced criminal charges, bribery, fraud, breach of trust, for years. An existential war keeps him in power. It shifts public attention. It makes removing him politically impossible during a national security crisis. On the Iranian side, the regime's legitimacy was built on 3 pillars: Islam, anti-Americanism, and opposition to Israel. By 2025, the economy was broken, the youth was revolting, and the regime needed an external enemy more than ever. 2 governments, 2 crises of legitimacy, 1 convenient war. Now, where do the other players stand? Saudi Arabia. Complicated. Saudi Arabia and Iran are rivals for regional supremacy. For decades, Riyadh quietly cheered every Israeli strike on Iran. But publicly, they must show solidarity with Palestine. The Abraham Accords almost normalized Saudi-Israel relations. October 7th froze everything. Saudi Arabia is now watching, waiting, calculating. Egypt and Jordan, both formally at peace with Israel, have populations deeply opposed to the war. Egypt fears a refugee crisis from Gaza. Jordan fears demographic destabilization. They intercepted Iranian drones for Israel in April 2024, yet condemned Israeli strikes publicly. This is the double life of Arab states: pragmatic security cooperation behind closed doors, public condemnation for domestic audiences. Turkey, Erdogan condemned Israel loudly and suspended trade. But Turkey is a NATO member. The contradiction is impossible to resolve. Turkey's position is performance more than policy. Pakistan, officially neutral, but under enormous pressure. When Israel struck Iran in 2025, Iran explicitly claimed Pakistan would use nuclear weapons on its behalf. Pakistan immediately denied it, but the statement revealed how Iran thinks that it can drag the Muslim world into its war by invoking solidarity. The Gulf states, UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, here's the paradox. They host U.S. military bases. They normalized relations with Israel. But when Iran fired missiles in 2026, some struck UAE and Bahrain too. Iran's message: you cannot stay neutral in my survival. The Middle East is not united. It is fractured along three fault lines: Sunni versus Shia, monarchy versus republic, U.S.-aligned versus resistance bloc. The Iran-Israel conflict lives at the intersection of all three. Now, the most misunderstood part. Is this a religious war? The honest answer: religion is the language of this conflict, not the cause. Iran's opposition to Israel is not rooted in Quranic scripture. Classical Islamic jurisprudence doesn't demand the destruction of every Jewish state. In fact, for most of Islamic history, Jews lived inside Muslim empires with relative protection. What changed in 1979 was not Islamic theology. It was Iranian political ideology dressed in Islamic clothing. Khomeini invented a doctrine called Vilayat-e-Faqih, rule by the Islamic jurist. It gave the supreme leader divine authority on earth, and he chose anti-Zionism as a defining pillar, not because the Quran demanded it, but because it united the Muslim world behind Iran's revolutionary project. Palestine became a mobilization tool. Every year, Iran observes Quds Day, Jerusalem Day, when Iranians are supposed to march for Palestinian liberation. It was invented by Khomeini. It does not exist in classical Islam. Notice something important. The Arab states most affected by the Palestinian issue, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, have all made peace with or quietly cooperated with Israel, while Iran, which shares no border with Palestine and has no Palestinian population, is the loudest voice. Why? Because Palestine is Iran's bridge to Sunni Muslim sympathy. It's the one issue that lets a Shia Persian state claim leadership of the entire Islamic world. This is not religion. This is strategy wearing religion's face. On the Israeli side, the religious Zionist movement believes the land of Israel is a divine inheritance, that Jerusalem is exclusively theirs, that the Temple Mount is the center of God's plan. This fringe ideology has moved from the margins to the center of Netanyahu's coalition. So on both sides, political actors use religious language to justify what are fundamentally strategic goals. Religion is the fuel. Power is the engine. So here's what we actually have. Two states locked in a struggle for regional dominance. One afraid of nuclear annihilation. One afraid of internal collapse. Proxy networks as weapons. Religion as propaganda. Domestic politics as hidden drivers. And a Middle East full of nations trying to survive between two fires. The people who pay the price in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Iran's bombed cities, in Israeli towns that wake up to sirens, they don't have nuclear programs or political careers to protect. They just want to live. Understanding this war clearly, without the propaganda of any side, is perhaps the most important thing a thinking person can do right now. If this gave you a perspective you hadn't seen before, subscribe, because that's what this channel is about. Not noise, but clarity.